Let's take a look at the Morph EQ plugin made by Minimal Audio. Minimal Audio makes some really good plugins, and as you might have guessed, this one's an equalizer. But what makes this plugin interesting is how you modulate its filters. Not only can this be a time saver because it's easier to use than many traditional methods of automation, but it's a great way to come up with some creative sounds. So let's listen to a few examples. To me, these sound interesting and they improve the sound. But like all plugins, slapping it on does not magically improve your sound. You need to know what you're doing, or at least get lucky. Later on in this video, I'll apply a few random presets, and you can see what it sounds like when it doesn't always match the sound. Let's take a quick tour of the plugin. First, you can click on the Help button at any time and hover over a control for more information. The plugin starts out without any filters, just a frequency spectrum. Double-click on the chart to add a filter. You can move the filter around and adjust its gain by dragging the filter point. You can change the filter's Q value or quality using the scroll wheel. Depending on the filter type, this either adjusts the filter's width or the sharpness of its cutoff. To change this, move the cursor over the center of the filter point and use the scroll wheel, or by pressing Ctrl, clicking on the point, and dragging. A cool feature is the adaptive Q button on the bottom right. When on, it automatically adjusts the filter's Q value based on the gain. This works for both peak and shelf filters. And as explained in the Help tooltip, this will give you a more consistent output level and mimic the behavior of many analog EQs. And most importantly, it sounds good. Now the exciting part of this plugin is how easy it is to modulate the filter. Click on the outside ring of a filter point and drag to make a new point. Now if you turn the morph knob, you'll see that the filter peak moves along the line you made. You can bend the line by clicking on it and dragging. You can add a new point in the middle by double-clicking. When you do this, each line can now be bent separately. You can keep extending the curve by clicking on the ring around the last point and dragging to make a new segment. An easier way is to hold the Control key and just keep clicking. You can do this as many times as you'd like. If there's a limit to the number of points, I haven't found it yet. You can right-click on a point to delete it, delete the whole path, delete the whole filter, or straighten the curve. You can also delete the point by selecting it and clicking on the trash icon at the bottom right. You can also undo or redo actions up to 100 times using the buttons next to it. This is really nice and a feature that many plugins don't have. You can set the max height of the chart by clicking on the drop-down at the bottom left. You can choose between 6, 18, and 36 decibels of range for both positive and negative gains. If you'd like more control, go down to the bottom of the chart, and here you can adjust the frequency, gain, and width of any filter at any morph point. If you want to set an exact value, just double-click on the parameter and type it in. As a reminder, the Q value sets the width or sharpness of the filter. You can change the filter type at the bottom left. Here you can choose any of the standard filters you'd expect to see in equalizers. To add another filter, double-click again on the chart. You'll now see a new filter with a new color. You can switch between filters using the filter selector at the bottom left or by clicking on the filter point. You can add different modulation paths for each filter. All filters are controlled by the same morph knob. Now, Minimal Audio says that you can have an unlimited number of filters, so just for fun, let's see how many I can add. Well, I stopped at 100. It struggles, but it handles it better than I thought it would, and it's cool that they let you try this. I wouldn't recommend it though. Of course, this isn't practical, but I think it's safe to say that it can handle any reasonable number of filters that you might actually need. You can set each filter's stereo routing for some nice stereo effects. For example, you can set some filters to only affect the left channel, and others to affect only the right. You also have options for mid and side control. Here's an example of a preset that uses this feature. You have 4 other macros and they're all pretty useful. The shift knob moves all filters up or down in frequency. The pinch knob moves all filters towards or away from the center of the chart, which produces some really cool formant-like sounds. The spread knob is my favorite, and it will shift the filters differently between the left and right channels, producing some cool stereo effects. The scale knob will increase or decrease the gain of all filters, or even invert them. This can be useful to control the sound and tame the filters when the sound gets too saturated and resonant. At the bottom, you have input gain, output gain, a dry-wet slider, which I always like to see, and an option to enable a gentle or more aggressive limiter, which is useful for taming the sound. You can run the filters in series, which is what equalizers normally do, or run them in parallel, which is useful for creative effects. You can also solo each filter by clicking the headphones icon and clicking and holding the filter's point. The macros can be modulated using your DAW. In Ableton, go to the Morph EQ effect at the bottom of the screen, click the expand button, and automate the exposed macro. If you have Ableton Suite, don't forget that you can use effects like LFO and envelope follower to modulate the parameter for you. I always like it when a plugin lets you resize it. I did notice that, at least in the initial version, the larger you make the plugin, the more CPU it needs and the less smoothly it runs. But once you're done editing, you can always shrink it or close it and the CPU usage goes back down. Let's check out the preset section. You have 5 categories depending on what you want to do with the sound. The morphing and abstract categories do crazy stuff with the sounds. The vowel category does some really cool formant-like morphing of your sound. And the filter and mixing categories give you some practical presets useful when mixing and filtering, as the name suggests. You also have the default preset at the top, which is really convenient when you want to reset the plugin. Your saved user presets are found at the bottom of the list. Finally, we have the random preset button, which is great for experimentation. Let's see it in action. Well, now that I've showed you it, what do you think? Is it worth the money? To me it is, and the price is reasonable. Minimal Audio makes good plugins, and this is one of the more interesting ones I found recently. It's very easy to use, and it has a lot of interesting and useful presets. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. You may ask yourself, is this something I need? Well, no, you can do all of this using only your DAW, and you can make great music using only stock effects. But the real question is it useful? To me it is, but it's up to you to figure out if it's useful to you. Let's not forget that you won't become a better producer overnight just because you bought a new plugin, a new instrument, or controller. You need to put in the work to develop your skills as a musician and producer. The right plugins can help you in your music production, but a tool is only as good as the person who wields the tool. So like many plugins, I see 2 main uses for it. First, this can save you time as a convenient way to modulate your filters and equalizers. Second, it can inspire you with new ideas and new sounds. I hope you found this useful, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to support my channel. and I'll see you in the next video.